Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller, and this is another installment of Low Budget Binge. That's where I shun the mainstream and I check out horror movies made on the cheap and independent side. I made an improvement to that logo, added a little racing stripe. I think it looks pretty sharp. I'm taking a look at 4 no-budget and low-budget films this time around. Here we go. First up is Don't Run. It's a film made in my home state of Ohio. Feels like a Goosebumps-like film about a boy who moves to a new town with his mother and experiences all of the usual social nightmares of being the new kid. After running into the neighborhood bully and the cute girl next door, the kid comes home to find a soft-speaking masked man informing him that his associate is now living in his closet. If the boy doesn't make it to bed by dark every night, terrible things will happen to him and those he loves. The rest of the film follows the boy as he tries to find some way out of this dire predicament. There's a level of innocence here that feels as if it's a kid trying to be somewhat edgy, but doesn't really have the darkness to really go there. This feels like a campfire tale, a cautionary tale, something you tell a kid so that he actually does go to bed. The stakes just don't feel that dire, and that's why I compare it to those Goosebumps episodes, which were fun, and they were scary. They had their purpose and place in horror. There are some decent chills here. If you're looking for a film to watch with your kid or partner who doesn't like their horror to be too intense, Don't Run will fit the bill nicely. But those looking for an edge to their terror should give this one a pass. What the Waters Left Behind is from the Onetti brothers, the duo responsible for the giallo homage Francesca, which came out a few years ago. The Onetti brothers definitely have an eye for capturing the beauty in deadly and macabre things. The film is set amidst the real-life devastation of the city of Epiquen, which succumbed to a flood back in 1985 and was never rebuilt. The city is now in ruins. Some buildings are sunken into the now-dried mud. Some locations are still submerged. The streets are lined with tall dead trees washed white from the salt water. It all makes for the perfect place for a horror film. The story follows a van load of young, pretty people who want to make a documentary about the lost city of Epiquen, told from the point of view from one of its survivors. When the doc crew arrives, they make their way through the ruins, not knowing that there's a family of monsters that still live in the town. The biggest problem with What the Waters Left Behind is that it's a blatant ripoff of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's got a van full of unsuspecting kids. It's got a mumbling man brute. It's got a sadistically giggling cook. And the finale is at a dinner table. What the Waters Left Behind is frustrating in its lack of originality. I'm a huge fan of cannibal family films. But usually, in films like Wrong Turn, The Hills Have Eyes, and the scores of other cannibal family films, they try, even in some minuscule way, to distinguish themselves from the Sawyers and their chainsaw-wielding kin. The Onettis try to up the ante of depravity by including some overlong rape and torture sequences. But that's not enough to set this one apart from a pale imitation of a classic film. It's too bad, too, because the Onettis obviously have talent in capturing twisted and gorgeous imagery. I just wish they put as much time into their stories. This is tasteless cut-and-paste storytelling that you can skip. Let's move on to something a little bit more lighthearted. While the horror elements are kind of low, BloodSucka Jones versus the Creeping Death delivers some superpowered laughs and goofy antics. This one is more of a spoof of the 70s era blaxploitation films. The original BloodSucka Jones film, if I'm remembering correctly, delivered a lot more gore than what shows up here in its sequel. But I think I laughed more with this one than I did back in 2014 when the original was released. BloodSucka Jones is still kicking the ass of the undead, but since we last saw him, he's packed on a few pounds. And the crew he runs with never misses a beat to point that out. This is one of those films made by a group of friends who are simply having a blast riffing off of each other. Director-writer Justin Armao has just my style of humor, and some of his one-off jokes had me rolling. I don't want to ruin the jokes by describing them here, because when you describe a joke, it immediately makes it unfunny, but just trust me, this is a funny, funny movie. Also be on the lookout for my two favorite characters, Tyrone and French Fry, a pair of drug dealers who do a running commentary for most of the movie. BloodSucka Jones has to get the band back together to take on an ever-spreading zombie threat in this one. This is a movie that's funnier than it should be. We can't always be so serious about our horror, and this movie proves it. If you see one movie from this week's binge, it should be The Haunted. A straightforward, yet still thrilling ghost story from writer-director David Holroyd. Sophie Stevens plays Emily, a headstrong young woman who's taken the assignment to spend the night watching over a bedridden man in an old English home. Given a list of specific instructions, Emily sets out for a boring night, but what she gets is nothing of the sort. Filmmaker Holroyd delivers your standard slamming doors, mysterious sounds, cold spots, and shifting shadows that are tried and true components of all good ghost stories. But what sets this apart from your typical humdrum haunted house flick is that the camera follows Stevens around for the entire film as she experiences the ever-increasing chills from close to the beginning to the very end. Reminiscent of both The Silent House and its American remake, The Haunted allows the viewer an intimate experience as one person attempts to survive the night, filled with all kinds of paranormal happenings. Sophie Stevens is not your typical wide-eyed waif. She's got a toughness about her that makes you root for her immediately to survive the night, even though the odds are stacked against her. Through very little dialogue, Stevens and Holroyd tell a surprisingly complex story, and it ended up surprising me with the ending. A good ghost story is hard to find, but this one is definitely one of the best I've seen in years. Please check this one out. That's it for now from Low Budget Binge. I'll be back with reviews and more soon. Remember to click that thumbs up button below. Share this video with your pals on social media, and please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a posting of one of my videos. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside